warm welcome to Public Global. I'm Neelu Vyas. Donald Trump administration reportedly has told a New York court that India and Pakistan reached a tenuous ceasefire only after US President Donald Trump interceded and offered both nations trading access with the US to avert a full-scale war. Now, according to the reports appearing on the news agencies, sources in the Indian government maintained that the two countries reached an understanding without any third party involvement. Now, what has happened in the US federal court is that Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick has made the remarks in a submission to the Court of International Trade last week. And Lutnick argued that Trump used his emergency powers under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, which is IEEPA, to impose tariffs aimed at protecting US national security and economy. Lutnick also said that maintenance of tariffs is crucial to the president's ability to conduct a real world diplomacy. And then they have quoted as an example that, for example, India and Pakistan, two nuclear powers, engaged in combat operations just 13 days ago and reached a tenuous ceasefire on May 10th, 2025. And this ceasefire was only achieved after President Donald Trump interceded and offered both nations trading access with the United States to avert a full-scale war. So this is the crux of the story. Now, what does this story do to the Indian government? Is it not a complete overturn of the stance which the Indian government has maintained? And just a few days ago, if you remember, the External Affairs Ministry had said that there was no third-party mediation and the ceasefire was declared at the military level. So what does this assertion in the federal court really explains? How will it impact the geopolitics? How will it impact the relations between India and US as well? Joining me is Mohsin Raza Khan, who's an international affairs expert from Jindal University. Thank you so much, Mohsin, for joining. How would you really see this assertion made in the US federal court, which really puts Prime Minister Modi's position really in a dock? Because here he is going around in rallies saying, "Hamare naso mein garam sindoor hai." He's celebrating the valor of the Indian armed forces. And here is an assertion in the US federal court, which completely gives another picture.
Yeah, it completely contradicts what the Prime Minister is saying. The Prime Minister and the government have been saying that there was no pressure from any external party. The US had little to do with it, directly between India and Pakistan. In fact, they don't even refer to the political heads of the two countries. They claim only the DGMOs decided. I don't think the DGMOs have the power to decide. And everybody knows that only the Prime Minister has the power to decide war and peace. So this is the claim on the Indian side, but it's completely being contradicted in this, not only by Donald Trump's own statements, but also by the filing that has just happened in the US courts. So they claim that Donald Trump has used trade pressure on both the countries and trade access in order to create peace. Now, in court, you can't tell lies in the US. It's called perjury if you commit that crime. It's a very serious crime. You can go to jail for it. So they actually believe that this happened. Now, either the Prime Minister should refute this, or it will be taken as the truth. Now, what do I personally believe? I personally believe that it was India and Pakistan together who both wanted peace, and the US role was not that critical. I mean, it was important as an intermediary, but not as a mediator. Now, at all, is because India's relationship now with Pakistan is so bad that India has no communication, no leverage left. And this is partly thanks to Prime Minister Modi's policies. Prime Minister Modi said that I will not talk to Pakistan. He removed ambassadors. He downgraded relations even before Pulwama. Even before, Pahalgam. The situation is such that some third party has to get involved. Otherwise, we are not able to carry on any kind of communication with Pakistan. Luckily, the DGMO lines have not been cut. Had the DGMO line also been cut, it would have been a very, very dangerous situation. So, Prime Minister Modi is trying to achieve some optics But in the process of trying to achieve these optics, the national interest of the country is suffering in two ways. One, we have no leverage left over Pakistan and little communication. Uh, because in international relations, you should always have a carrot and stick policy. That is, if the other country does policies which you like, you should be able to offer them carrots, and if not, you offer them sticks. But here we are only talking sticks, sticks, and more sticks. So it's not a very useful foreign policy, in my opinion. As you can see, no other country stood by India also in this whole process. And the second problem that we are facing now is that openly the President of the United States is contradicting our Prime Minister, openly challenging him, uh, and humiliating the country. It's in contradiction of more than 70 years of India's foreign policy, where we never allowed an international mediator. We didn't allow any other country to decide our relations, when to go to war, when to go to peace. We resisted it even when we were very poor. In the case of 1971, 65, and after that in 99 in Kargil, we always resisted foreign pressure. So now it's a sad debasement of our foreign policy. It's a sad commentary on the state of affairs. The foreign policy has been a total disaster, I would say. Whether Modi ji was hugging people or sitting on swings with them, whether he was claiming that we were Vishwaguru, or he thought the Godi media was projecting that Donald Trump's arrival on the scene would be like manna appearing from heaven. Nothing like that has turned out. Our policy has been even worse now with Trump than it was with Biden. At least Biden was not imposing sanctions on us, was not humiliating us on the public stage, was not claiming to mediate on Kashmir, was not equating us to Pakistan. So it's been an unmitigated disaster. And so too with Jai Shankar, all the laser eyes coming out from his eyes, where he was
No, but
burning the world down.
I'm just wondering that what is the government now going to say? Whether it is the Prime Minister, whether it is the Foreign Ministry, what will they say now?
I am looking forward to it myself. As as the Chinese would say, we live in interesting times. दिलचस्प होने वाला है, जो भी होने वाला है. So it will be very interesting to hear their rebuttal and all that. My feeling is that they are going to act very meek. They're going to chicken out of it, as they say. They're both the Prime Minister and his Foreign Minister and the spokesman are just going to chicken out of it. Nobody dare publicly contradict Trump.
It's very obvious that people contradict, but what is the kind of relation now India and America will, given the fact that there is so much exchange happening between the two nations? It's not that India can do away with America. So, what is the kind of relation between India and America?
India had a fairly deep relationship with America. So many Indians are working there, sending money back, millions of them. It's the largest source of remittance. Remittance is so important to our economy. Our currency would just sink if remittances went down. The rupee would just sink to the bottom. Second thing is we have so much of technology interplay between the two, defense expenses, defense purchases. So we have a lot of interaction with the United States. The United States supports us, I believe, with some intelligence as well. So we have a deep and an abiding relationship with the United States. Of course, we are not America's lackey. So America will also not do too much for us, because we have also at some points not stood by America when it was coming to Ukraine or coming to East Asia. So America is also not too keen on helping us in that way militarily. Even Biden was not. And with Trump, it's even more transactional. He's transactional even with their closest allies. So leave alone India. Trump is so transactional even with Europe. So Japan and all of those. So hardly is he going to be not transactional with us. So it's the relationship is going to be where it was, more or less, except India is going to be a bit wary. At least the Modi government is going to be a bit more wary of asking for help from Trump, because anytime Trump, he makes it a public point. He creates a public spectacle, which will be very difficult for our prime minister, and even not just our prime minister, but even for people in the opposition in the Congress to stomach. India is not used to this kind of brazen behavior, this kind of humiliation, even when we were much poorer. So instead of Vishwa Guru, we seem to have become a whipping boy.
So, what I'm asking is that this is an important revelation which is made in the US court, in the federal court.
Mute
Donald
yourself
Trump is trying
because
to
there's an echo.
justify his own
Mosi.
powers.
Yeah.
But
Yourself.
in
Yeah. So
what has he done to Prime Minister Modi? Is Prime Minister Modi's
But
image
in
now
Modi's image
split into
now
smithereens?
Modi's image will be maintained by Godi media in India at all costs. The government will do some things which will create a scene in at least in the television Noida media, where he comes across as a hero. But the real test will be what happens in the online space. That is, what happens in the YouTube channels, what kind of conversations happen in houses, behind closed doors, in parks, where people meet. It will have a very deleterious effect, I think, on his image as the strong man. If he gave in to the pressure just for a few dollars, for a few rupees, the leak that was being projected to us at home, a very different picture by Modi's aggression and by Modi's big talk. India is still apparently we are still very much dependent on the US, and I would say even to some extent on Russia, which remains our largest arms supplier even today. So, and we depend so much on its technology. So, India is largely dependent upon imported arms, whether it's from France or the US or Russia. So, we are in a, a situation where nobody is standing with us in the international square. We are alone in our fight with Pakistan. With China, the US claims it's on our side, but as we can see, it's a very transactional relationship even there. I think Prime Minister Modi's foreign policy has taken a big hit because what was being projected here in India was that we are a Vishwaguru and that we were, even during this conflict, that we were about to take over POK, that Pakistan was reeling. Well, if Pakistan was reeling and Pakistan was cowed down, as Prime Minister claimed that their DGMO apologized and said that we will never do any more terrorism or attacks on India, only then we agreed to ceasefire. Then he later backtracked and said it's not even a ceasefire right now. The action is continuing, the operation is continuing. So if Pakistan did back down, then why was Pakistan violating the ceasefire even that day, the next day? So it's not clear that we are, and if we were winning, then why did we stop the action? If it were as it was said by Amit Shah several times and Modi himself that we'll take back POK, then we should have gone ahead. So the policy actions and the public pronouncement are in such contradiction that it's difficult to make any sense of what the prime minister is saying and what is actually happening on the ground. And this is reflected in his language. Since he's feeling under pressure, he's resorting to a very base language. Whether when he says to Pakistan that if you're not going to eat your roti in peace, we are going to give you Modi's bullets, or hot sindoor is running through my veins. I mean, even Hollywood won't have such dialogues. Sounds like Kadir Khan has been writing the dialogues.
But after this assertion in the US federal court, do you think that Prime Minister Modi will in any way be able to face the armed forces? Because now, what is the kind of churning within the armed forces you speculate? Because I'm sure armed forces would be, the personnel would be talking amongst themselves that, look, we had stuck out our neck at the borders, and look here, there is a trade incentive because of which a ceasefire has happened. So what is the kind of impact it is going to have on the morale of the armed forces? This assertion made in the US federal court.
My feeling is it may not reach some of the people in the armed forces. It may be, this news may be suppressed by the Godi media. To the extent that it will reach them, they will feel naturally disappointed, in the leadership. And the retired personnel will keep quiet because they are worried about their pensions. The serving personnel will also keep quiet because they'll be worried about their promotions. Because this government is very vindictive. And it has threatened people in the past in the armed forces. Even though they claim to be honoring the armed forces, in reality, they have no respect for the armed forces because they have threatened them of withholding their pensions, etc. if they speak out against the government. I know several retired officers who have told me that. So it will definitely have some impact. I can't say exactly what impact, but I don't think our armed forces are going to lose their morale because they were clearly winning against Pakistan. But they will be disappointed with our leadership for sure.
Yeah.
Our political
But
leadership.
right. So one last question before I wind up the interview: that what does this assertion do finally to Donald Trump and also Prime Minister Modi?
Donald Trump, it'll do very little to him. He is hoping to get a Nobel Peace Prize, so he's emphasizing his big role in creating peace in India, Pakistan, because he's failed in the case of Ukraine, Russia, and even the case of Israel, Palestine. So he's found this nice new whipping boy, that is Pakistan and India. And what will it do to Modi? Now that depends on how far the media carries it. It's the media's job to carry it to the Indian public. I hope it doesn't get smothered and snuffed out like previous adverse news. So it will depend on how the media carries this. And sadly, the Godi media is definitely not going to carry this. But let's see. Let's hope that the non-Godi media, the online media, is able to carry this.
All right. So thank you so much, Mohsin, for joining. And we'll have to wait and watch what is the kind of reaction we get from the MEA here. How do the leaders respond? How do the people in the armed forces respond? I don't know whether they'll respond at all or not. Thank you so much, Mohsin, for joining. Thank you very much.